Thank you for being with us today. I'm talking to Dee Rosario of the East Bay Regional Parks District. Welcome, Dee. Can you
Thank
tell
you.
us?
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Can you tell us what your affiliation with the East Bay Regional Parks District is?
I'm on board of directors for the East Bay Regional Park District, and I represent Ward 2, which is most of Oakland, Piedmont, Lafayette, Moraga, Orinda, Canyon, and Rossmore in Walnut Creek.
And can you give us a quick breakdown of what lands make up the East Bay Regional Parks District?
The East Bay Regional Park District is now in 2 counties, Alameda, Contra Costa County, at 73 parks, 123,000 acres, which has about 1,200 miles of trail and includes 55 miles of shoreline.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's huge.
And let's talk about the history of the parks. Like, what year did they come to be?
The district was formed officially in 1934 with the vote in November of 1934 to form the district and also to tax themselves to create a funding base that was independent of anything else. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, there was some incredible visionaries there. When you think about 1934 was in the midst of a depression.
And so people in the midst of that depression voted, I think it was a pretty big margin too, right? To tax themselves.
Yeah, by 71%. 71%, quite impressive. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was just 7 cities in Alameda County. Contra Costa County dropped out because they were rural and they didn't want to burden their growing cities of Richmond and El Cerrito. And so, but they joined later in 1964.
Talk about the founders. It seemed like they were developers, and it's hard to imagine now, right? If you have some extra land that we would set it aside for the enjoyment of people. Talk about those visionaries.
Talking about a developer was Mr. McDuffie. He was not only a developer, but he was also a UC graduate, and he was an avid hiker in the Sierras. In fact, some of his colleagues that helped form the park district, they would go on these treks in the Sierras. He was one of the big pushers for, I should say an advocate for creating a 10,000 acre park in the hills of Berkeley in Oakland. And along with that was Bill Tilden, who was also a UC graduate and professor. He was another major advocate. August Vollmer, who Vollmer Peak in Tilden Park is named for. Tommy Roberts. He was not a UC graduate, but he represented labor. He was the leader of the Central Labor Council of Alameda County, and he also was the leader of the building trades for Alameda County. So labor played a major part in getting the 1934 bond passed. And then there was Aurelia Reinhardt, major advocate for Save the Redwoods. She was the president of Mills College, a major peace advocate as well. In fact, when she was also simultaneously on the board of directors for the Park District, she was also on the Planning Commission for the City of Oakland, and she's responsible for a lot of the parks in the city system.
It's just amazing at how forward-thinking people were, and how lucky I feel we all are to enjoy this legacy that they've left.
Well, there was a kind of a nexus of the timing was incredible. I mean, not only did these visionaries want to preserve the hills and create the 10,000 acre park originally, but there was a nexus of the water company, the newly formed East Bay Mud, had surplus lands, and they were willing to sell and wanted to sell. And then there was also the WPA project. The federal government project was ongoing, and they had offered free labor. Mm-hmm. Because they had 3 camps in those hills, and they were willing to provide free labor to build out any plans for the parks, in which they did. And you can see a lot of big stonework at Lake Temescal and Tilden and Redwood is still standing, and you can see that. And so there was a nexus of things. There was free labor, surplus land, and all what they needed to get was the people behind it to vote for it, mm-hmm. which they did.
Can we talk about the Olmsted Hall report?
Sure.
So that was 1930, 4 years before the park district was established.
The planning of this park was well before the 1934 passing. And so there was a lot of groundwork ahead of time. And there was a committee of 1,000. They called themselves a committee of 1,000. And it was headed up by Robert Sproul of Berkeley, UC Berkeley. And they hired Olmsted Jr., who was the son of Olmsted Sr., who developed the plan for the New York City's Central Park. And so that was commissioned in like June of 1930. That plan was finished by November of 1930. And that became the blueprint for not only the campaign, but also for the planning of the parks. Hall, because of Olmsted Hall was from the national parks, a visionary in his own right. He was extremely supportive of a plan to develop parks in the Oakland Hills. With his background in planning and running the national parks, he had major input into that plan.
You've been with the Parks District for quite some time. Can you talk about when you first started working for the district?
Sure. I started as a seasonal in 1975, and the story behind that was that I was a senior at Cal State Hayward. At the time, I was a kinesiology major with a biology minor, and I was also a head of household. I was raising a brother and 2 younger sisters, along with my other sister Terry, who's a year behind me, and we were raising them. And I was applying for the teaching credential program, which I wanted to be a teacher, and I found out I had to teach during the day and go to school at night, and I couldn't, because I had to work to support my family. Then I got a temporary job at the regional parks. I was a user of the regional parks. I used to swim at Don Castro. I used to run in the hills. I was on the Hayward wrestling team, and I would run up there. Our wrestling coach at the time, Tom Meekins, he was friends with George Foreman, and the team would run up there with George Foreman up in the hills with his 2 Rottweilers, and I had fond memories of that. But that's what inspired me to think about working for the Park District. I got on as a temporary in 75. I worked at Don Castro, which I learned how to swim there. The next season, I got hired as a full-time park ranger at Redwood Regional Park. And there was a nexus there too with I think I was hired not only because I thought I was a really good worker, but at the same time, in 1972, the employee union at the time, and a coalition of women had sued the Park District to hire women and minorities. And so that was my foot in the door. And I got there and I never looked back.
And then you get to work at Redwood Park too.
Oh
So
my
tell
God,
us
yeah.
a little bit about.
Right off the bat. I mean, I was born in Oakland, and I never knew Redwood Park was there. It was here.
Wow.
And I lived in the housing projects over on the Oakland side of the High Street Bridge, and we never made it past. I don't think I made it past MacArthur Boulevard. But anyway, so I didn't know about Redwood Park until I got hired there. Just blew my mind. It was just amazing.
Can you talk about the history of Redwood Park? I mean, there are beautiful stands of redwood trees. They're not old growth, right?
They're all second and third growth. The majority of the trees were cut down in 1860. And according to some records, by 1855, 90% of the forest was still standing. But with the invention of the steam mills, within 5 years, from 1855 to 1860, they basically logged every redwood tree in the park, what is now known as Redwood Park and Joaquin Miller. I think the only left was a scrawny young tree that they left, and that is on Oakland, City of Oakland property off of Campus Drive. It's probably one of the tallest trees. If you take Campus Drive off of Redwood Road, and as you're turning into the campus and look to the right, you'll see probably the tallest tree there is the old grandfather tree.
What was the redwood milled for?
Lumber. and it basically built the Bay Area. San Francisco, of course, burned many times, not just in 1906, but several times, and then built up the towns of Hayward and Oakland and Hercules and Benicia. And so that old growth got around, and a lot of it, some of it got shipped to the Sandwich Islands, which was the what we now call the Hawaiian Islands, to build there.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing. I know that there were sea captains that would come into the bay and use the large redwood trees as sightings to avoid obstacles.
They were called the navigation trees. And we have a monument at Roberts Park where we think there was a good possibility that that was the site of one of the trees. John Nichols, who was our forester back in the 70s and early 80s, he did a tremendous amount of research, and he figured out in order for those trees to be seen, they had to be along the ridge. And there's a ridge from Roberts that falls right going northwest down into Joaquin Miller, and they would have been seen. They would have been quite tall, and they would have been very prominent in the landscape.
Mhm.
And I think Captain Beecham, in his diaries, which I think we actually somebody found, and he actually records that he used those trees to get past Blossom Rock. Blossom Rock was this huge rock that was later blown up. It's quite an affair. There was a bid out, and this guy said he could do it for less money, and he turned out losing a fortune in doing it. But he got it done. But it was a lot more than he thought it was going to be. But it's quite a story.
There's this string of parks, right, that run from the Oakland Hills all the way to Berkeley, and those are, it's like they're trails, right, inner agency or inner park trails that connect. What are those parks, and like how many miles do they cover?
Yeah, actually we have, it's called the Skyline National Trail.
Mm-hmm.
We had it designated, we have a national designation, and it actually starts in Anthony Chabot in San Leandro, goes across the ridge into Anthony Chabot proper, into Redwood, along West Ridge, and then goes into Huckleberry, Sibley, Tilden, and Wildcat, and ends in Richmond. So it's 31 miles long, and it's quite a trek, but it can be done. There are right now I think there are 5 overnight camps that you can reserve if you want to do the whole thing. You don't have to do it all in one day. You can plan it. But the section in between Redwood, Huckleberry, Sibley, and Tilden, that's about 12 miles. That's doable in one day.
Mm-hmm. Sibley is a former volcano.
Yes.
So talk about the unique areas that different parks contain or are made up of.
Well, Sibley, as you mentioned, is an extinct volcano. And what makes it very accessible is that at one point it collapsed. And also on top of that, there was used to be a quarry. People used to take rock out of that. And so it's exposed, and you can see the different layers, and geology students from all over the world come just to see that. And there's the park has created a self-guiding tour, and you can see the different formations. And then there's our Black Diamond Mines in Antioch, which is an incredible experience. If this is an opportunity for the public to go underground, that area, Antioch, Pittsburgh, had a long history of coal mining. And then when coal mining tapped out, the mine at Black Diamond was resurrected as a sand mine for silica to make glass. Mm-hmm. And so we've just renovated that, the whole facility underground. So now there's a whole interpretive program down there that tells the story of not only the sand mining, but also the coal mining now. There's a big, what we call the Great House, where there's a visitor center inside. So it's pretty amazing.
Sounds perfect on a hot day too.
Oh yeah, because it's constant 52 degrees. Mm-hmm. If it could be 100 degrees up on top, and then just make sure you bring a sweater.
Right.
And then we have an island, Brooks Island, uh, which is off of Richmond Inner Harbor.
Mhm.
And you can get there by reservation and guided tour, and you go by kayak. There's a lot of Native American presence there, shell mounds, and some possible burial sites. But it's kind of renowned as it used to be owned by Bing Crosby. He used it as he used to go, he stocked it with pheasant, and he used to go pheasant hunting with his buddies there.
And we also have the largest dog walking park, right?
Point Isabel, I mean, the majority of our parks allow dogs off leash as long as they're under voice control.
Mhm.
The attraction of Point Isabel is that it is very, very accessible and has these incredible views of the bay. Everybody goes there to walk their dogs, and it's, if you want to go dog watching, that's the place to be. And then we have the Ardenwood Historic Farm out in Fremont,
Mhm.
which is we run together with the Fremont and Union City. It's a historic farm that was left by the Patterson family, and we run it as a historic farm. So we use agricultural techniques from the 1850s. I believe we're still using horse-drawn plows, and there we also have a contract with an organic farmer there, growing organic produce that you can buy. It's really pretty cool, and it's also the site of the eucalyptus groves there. Are known to be overwintering sites for the monarch butterfly. It's one of the major sites to go see.
Do you have a favorite? I know you worked in Redwood Regional. Do you have a favorite park in the district?
I can't get away from Redwood. I just love it.
Yeah.
There's just so much there, and I mean, my favorite walks are on the French Trail,
Mhm.
Stream Trail, French Trail, and then my third favorite is the Golden Spike.
Let's talk about some of the newest park. It's the Sylvia McLaughlin East Shore Park.
Sure, it's about 9 miles long, and it was Sylvia McLaughlin, who founded the Save the Bay and also the BCDC. She and her fellow founders, they campaigned heavily to save that stretch as open space and habitat. The state did create a park there, and they designated us, the East Bay Regional Park District, to manage the park.
Mhm.
And so we're created the Class 1 bicycle path there. We just finished rehabbing the Albany Beach and the trail around the Golden Gate Fields, which is a major engineering feat, I think, in my mind, because it juts out over the edge there.
There's supposed to be trails, right, linking the entire waterfront.
Yeah,
And
that's
is
our.
that all run by you guys?
It's multi-jurisdictional.
Mhm.
We run a majority of it, but different cities along the way run their portions.
Mhm.
But no, that's our goal, is to connect the Bay Trail all the way around the bay. In our portion, we've made great strides in connecting Point Richmond to Emeryville.
Mhm.
The Judge John Sutter Park Regional Park is going to play a key piece in going south into Oakland. I'm really excited about extending the Bay Trail, especially in Oakland. We
Mhm.
got some major gaps that we are going to be difficult to close, but I'm hoping we can do it.
You just mentioned Judge Sutter.
Yes,
What park is that?
Judge John Sutter Regional Shoreline is at the foot of the Bay Bridge,
Mhm.
and it was part of the former Oakland Army base, and also the Bridgyard building there was the service facility that repaired the electric trains that crossed the Bay Bridge. And the MTC, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, they did a fabulous job of restoring that building, and they put plexiglass over the pits where the workers used to work, because the trains used to roll. They used to roll the trains onto the floor, and the workers would work on the trains from underneath.
Uh-huh.
And so they did a fabulous job of restoring that building, and they've leased it to us to run as an entertainment venue. Up until COVID happened, we were having a lot of events out of there.
Mhm. You mentioned COVID. What is the district doing to help continue the use of the parks during this time and also to keep visitors safe?
When COVID first hit, we were really concerned about the safety of our employees. We weren't sure what we could do we didn't have enough personal protective gear for them to start cleaning restrooms, but we did keep our parks open by closing facilities, but having the trails open so that people could at least hike. Trash was a concern as well because of high touch surfaces. So we had to cordon off our trash cans and our picnic areas. Park rangers have been doing an incredible job of maintaining the trails. Even though they had to do their social distancing, the crews are really spread out over the day. So it was quite a logistic exercise. And then the true spirit of our park rangers, they're very innovative and they're very dedicated employees, and they really care about the park and the public. And once we got enough personal protective gear and we were able to train all the staff, then we started opening up select restrooms, especially at the trailheads. Drinking fountains are still closed, again, because of high touch surfaces. Our most innovative repurposes of the park has been our interpretive and recreation department. As you know, a lot of our naturalist programs, people couldn't come to them. So they've been producing videos online and putting them on the website, our Facebook page, and on our website. They're just fabulous. It's quite an accomplishment for a naturalist to do a 360 and reinvent themselves. And we're hoping that we, at some point, as we get a handle on the COVID, we'll get back into normal, I hope. We've seen a 400% increase in park usage. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to open up all of our parking lots. I mean, some of our parking lots are restricted just because we wanted to keep people from congregating in large groups. So, and keep them away from using our major picnic areas. So one of these days.
Can you talk about the Regional Parks Foundation, what that is and how they work with the district?
Oh, yeah. The Regional Park Foundation, it came about because Kaiser Permanente wanted to donate land to us and to create a park, which is now Shadow Cliffs Recreation Area. And we had no mechanism to accept donations. And so the general manager at the time, Pat O'Brien, said, well, why don't we create a 501(c)(3). The Regional Parks Foundation came into being, and they were able to pass that donation through the Regional Parks Foundation, and we run it as a park. The Regional Parks Foundation has become an incredible fundraising, I don't want to say machine, but for the park district. But what it does is it raises money for programs that are run by the park district. We provide staff and the programming, and the foundation provides us with the money to run those programs, to make them sustainable. And so there's camperships, there's the Bus Express program, which we were able to bus 40,000 children from impacted schools throughout both counties. We have a community, these healthy community walks, multicultural walks, where we actually provide transportation. So we get communities like Richmond and Oakland out into our parks out at Contra Loma and Redwood and Shadow Cliffs. They're extremely well attended, like over 100 people, all people of color and all ages, families. And then we also have this Healthy Parks, Healthy People, where we're teaming up with UCSF and Samuel Merritt College, where we're actually having families volunteer to be monitored. They walk in the park, they take cholesterol readings and heart monitoring readings on a regular basis. And also their doctors actually prescribe exercise. And so we've arranged for small buses to pick them up to take them to their most local park. So it's incredible. It allows us so much flexibility where we couldn't take it out of our general fund to do it.
So how would a new park come to be?
Oh, yeah. I told you the donation like Kaiser Permanente did and created Shadow Cliffs. Right now we have a park that we're developing, which is called McCosker Ranch. The McCosker family decided to donate that to the park district, that land to the park district. And we get a lot of lands that way. We also get straight acquisitions. In 1988, we passed Measure AA that increased the size of the park district from 30 parks to 60. And then in 2008, in the middle of a depression, the voters voted a $500 million acquisition bond, which we're halfway through. which is put us at our current size of 73 parks, and there's many more. So we're buying land as they come available. There's also, we get land from developments, from housing developments. They have to provide some open space. And then a lot of our parks, we lease. Martin Luther King Shoreline, that's all owned by the Port of Oakland. We run 3 state parks, Lake Devalier in Livermore, Crown Memorial State Beach in Alameda, and as we mentioned, the Sylvia McLaughlin State Park. So acquisition, mitigation, donation, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It truly is. What is your own personal thought on the importance of open space?
I think this pandemic has really put an emphasis on why we need open spaces. For me, it's a place of not only recreation and inspiration, but solace and a way to get in touch with nature, which is where we came from. All of us, no matter where we came, no matter what our heritage is, we started with the land, and that was one of my greatest takeaways from working for 37 years in the park district, was working on the land, and it's just it does something to your soul, that connection. So yeah, I just think it's extremely important, and it's very extremely important that we get our urbanized populations into the parks so that they can learn that these open spaces are theirs forever, and that they can use them and cherish them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dee, and thank you for all the work that you do to create and maintain the beautiful parks in the East Bay for all of us to enjoy. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and I have to thank all the employees for the park district from the bottom up. They're incredibly dedicated, have a passion for parks.
Mm-hmm. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
No, very nice to meet you.
You too.
All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye.